this is an age of collaboration.
Right.
No one can work in silos any longer. The government departments can't work in silos any longer.
Hello and welcome to Up Close and Personal Season 2 here at InvokED Studio, where we dive deep into the heart of leadership, collective action and education equity. I'm your host Ishwarya, and today we have with us a leader who has redefined the way we look at governance in development, Mr. Shekhar Singh. Welcome, Shekhar.
Thank you, Shri.
Shekhar has reimagined public leadership, placing people at the center of policy and driving systemic change through transparent, accountable, and community-driven governance. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Shekhar, my first question to you is, how did you decide this shift from engineering to public service?
I think the way it goes for a lot of us, we don't realize what we finally intend to do in life. I could get that flexibility to decide what I intend to do one step after the other. So engineering, I was very sure from the very beginning that I want to be in science. I wanted to do engineering. Engineering looked good, so I decided to do my master's. Went to US, but when I reached US, when I started my master's is when I began to realize that I can't do this for the rest of my life. That was the first push. I didn't feel like settling down in US. Things were all good, but it didn't really feel like. And I think I'm a strong believer in the fact that this century belongs to our country. This century belongs to India, and I need to be India. That was the first thought, that I need to go back, not settle in US. There were multiple options. One thing led to the other, and I've always been a person who's liked interacting with people, liked to do different things, various things, etc. So I think civil service seemed like the best fit in many ways. So came back, gave the exam, got through, and here I am.
That's a very interesting journey. Moving on, you are a leader who has the power to influence a lot of people. What is your idea of leadership?
So I think leadership, particularly in a role where you're in a public service, in public sphere, frankly, there are a few basic traits of leadership which are valid everywhere. You could be in a classroom setting, you could be in an MNC, you could be in government, you could be in army, etc., etc. There are a few things which are valid everywhere: leading from the front, taking failures in your stride, giving success to your team, etc. But in the government setup, in the public sphere, I think the most important critical factor that I feel is the ability to listen to people around you. More often than not, we are in a habit of speaking more and listening less. But I think in the government, it becomes very critical to take every feedback that is possible. Also because this is an age of collaboration. No one can work in silos any longer. The government departments can't work in silos any longer. We are talking about whole government approach, ecosystem approach, systemic thinking, things like that. And beyond the government sphere as well, right from your development organizations to your civil societies, to citizenry in general, to media, to political class, everyone taking them together. So I think it's in the spirit of collaboration, which begins from when you start to listen to people, start taking their feedback, and then act basis on that. And once you act basis on that, where all stakeholders are a part of what you're trying to do, I think decisions become little easier. Of course, there are challenges everywhere. You can't convince each and everyone, but the story becomes a little easier to achieve, and the team can, support, team can go on with you together easier than what it could have been otherwise. There could be many other things, but I think this is largely it. I'm a firm believer that we should listen more and more and try to take all various voices in consideration. But then at the end of the day, you have to decisively put together and move ahead as well.
Right. Building on your thought where you mentioned how it's important that people come together and work, what do you think about collective action, and how do you see government working with non-profits, philanthropy and other stakeholders in the ecosystem?
I think everyone brings their own strengths to the table. Everyone have their own weaknesses as well. The biggest strength of the government is, working at scale. Which is not possible if philanthropy or a non-profit is working in silo apart from the government. So you'll be able to make a very focused impact, and that is great as well. Nothing against a focused impact. But if you want to do the largest for the largest good, I think it has to be at a scale. So governments have also increasingly realized that there are a few weaknesses that inherently are there in the government. For example, we're not very good in, say, capacity building. We're not very good in a way, I would say, motivation and things like that, where non-profits become very important. Non-profits or development organizations, partner organizations also become very important in trying to prepare a strategic roadmap where different inputs can come in trying to come up with best practices, the best innovations that might be happening. Tech is a very important thing going forward. You take any field.
Right.
AI, ML gets thrown in everywhere and it's become quite casual also. But having said so, it could be tech from any point of view. It could be tech from an edutech point of view, which has been the revolution in the past 7 to 8, 10 years. It could be AI going forward. It could be machine learning going forward. And I think that is where a collaboration from private enterprises, from startups, from non-profits also becomes very, very critical for government to absorb in and trying to take all those inputs to, reach a solution, reach an approach which fits in well from all perspectives. So I think a collective action is the absolute need of the hour. Government has been increasingly collaborating at all levels, at the Government of India level, at the state levels, and also at the city levels. I'm currently heading a urban administration, so speaking more from a city point of view. But even when I was a collector in Gadchiroli, which is far-flung Naxal district, bordering Chhattisgarh, collaboration was the key. So I was collaborating with almost about 10 to 15 organizations in various spheres. And that also brings a bit of a freshness in the idea. Otherwise, in the daily routine, daily mundane, this thing, because there's a very critical part of administration which is very, very routine, which might seem routine, but which becomes very critical for someone. A simple thing of issuing a marriage certificate can be very run of the mill, but it's very critical for that citizen who wants that marriage certificate. So in this entire, this run of the mill thing that you are doing, which are again very critical, I think collaboration brings in a lot of fresh ideas also, and it keeps pumping you to probably keep delivering better.
I think that's a very well put response. Also, it's important that leaders like you believe in collaboration. I think only then we can actually talk about educational reforms. Moving on to my next segment, I want to know a little bit about what do you feel about scaling up without compromising the quality?
So I think that's Aishwarya, that depends on context quite a lot.
Right.
All pilots, or generally many pilots, are very good. When you scale up, the most important thing, what I said in the beginning, for scaling up, the most important part is for the entire machinery to absorb the story that you are trying to play. For that entire machinery to absorb the vision that you are trying to portray. If you are able to portray and transmit that vision, if you are able to transmit that story and make everyone's own story, we'll be successful in scaling up. But if you're not able to portray that story, people absorb it at scale, we'll not be able to succeed. So I'll give you a very short, quick, but a very, very potent example is Honorable Prime Minister Swachh Bharat Mission. If you look from 2014, he really started with a broom in his hand, trying to take all these various activities. Initial part, 1, 2, 3 years was just building of the story. Where, that message was trickling down right from PMO, right up to your last village, your last ward, your last slum in a city, etc., etc. Over the time, once people begin to understand that vision, when people begin to understand and absorb that story, is when you can scale it up. So I think most crucial part, according to me, in scaling up and the gaps which remain is that in pilot, we are very, very focused. All the team is there because we do a pilot. Generally, we tend to do it in a good place. If it's a school, you will tend to choose the best school which is available. But when you move from that one best school to the other 130 schools, for example, I have 130 schools in my city, that vision needs to translate to every principal, every teacher, every cluster coordinator, every supervisor, and then possibly every, say, school management committee, etc., parents, all. I think that, to my mind, if we're able to achieve, if we're able to explain the story behind the pilot, then to the scaling up, we would have done the job. Other things are all technical details.
Absolutely, I agree. I think once the vision is clear to everybody moves like a team in the right direction. Right. Well, moving on to our next segment, we have some jars here, which have some questions by our guests. Can you pick one question and then read it out for our audience?
Okay. If I freeze, can I move on?
Yes, you can.
What is one moment that you believe had the greatest impact on society, and why? I think one moment, I don't know, one technical shift that I can say, because I've been dealing with a lot of technology and been trying to see if we can use technology in various spheres, especially in the urban governance part. I think this entire thing towards artificial intelligence is something which is very, very disruptive in good ways, I would say. I'm not of the belief that it is going to be all bad. We need to see how we implement it in various forms and how we can regulate it, etc. But I think this entire movement towards an artificial intelligence is something which will change the world. I feel for the better, but we need to be very cautious and we need to be very careful about it. And it is changing things in very, very fundamental ways,
Right.
And this clubbed with things like quantum computing, for example, a recent breakthrough that happened in quantum computing. You have the entire computing prowess of the world probably fit into a single quantum computer is what we are talking about going forward. So you can imagine the kind of computing ability that we are talking about. The only thing is how we keep the human touch while we are moving towards artificial intelligence is something that will be crucial. So I think that answers the question.
Yes, that does. Thank you for sharing that. Well, a little fun segment now. We'll take a fun trip down the memory lane and going back to your school days, which is your favorite memory of school?
I think there have to be multiple. I can't really place my hand onto it, but all the events that happen in the school, right from your sports day to your annual days. I used to participate. I was in basketball team, and I used to do judo, not really karate, but judo. And I was also part of my debating team and theater as well. So I think all those things are which come back to you because those are the memories you generally never remember what really you were taught in class per se, because there is too much of that. I think it's the human interactions which are very, very critical, very important. And I do remember all those extracurricular so-called or the other activities. And I think that is something which is still etched very well in my mind. And it could be the various trips that we went on to. The school trips that we went on to various places, right from Himalayas to Rajasthan to Agra. I think those are the things. So my earliest memory of my school trip is we going to Agra in class 2. That was the first time I was moving out of my house without the parents, so to say. And I still remember sitting in the Shatabdi train, taking the train from New Delhi railway station, going to Agra, Taj Mahal, staying there for 2 days, and then coming back. I think those are the memories that are far too etched in my memory, so to say.
Right. I can totally relate because when you're not in class, that is when you're having the most fun. Right. This is your first time at InvokED. It's a platform where a lot of different stakeholders come together and deliberate around education, leadership, and multiple other things around tech as well. What are your thoughts about a platform like InvokED, and how do you think it can promote education equity and collective action?
So I think it's a great platform. What I in between said about collaboration, this is one of those platforms which pushes you towards collaboration. You get to meet a lot of people. You get to hear stories from across India, probably outside India as well. Stories which are doing well, stories which can inspire us to take it back to our city and probably try to see where we can improve, where we can include few things which are being done by other cities, other districts, other towns or other countries, and what we can take it forward. And I think tech is again something, I'm an engineer, I'm a civil engineer, I'm not an IT engineer, but I am of the firm belief that in governance, tech is that one thing which can solve a lot of issues. Tech is that one thing which can solve a lot of problems. But education is also that one field where the human touch with the tech has to be there. If you believe that only edutech can deliver things for kids, that's not how it's going to happen. You need to have a brick mortar school with the teacher being there, using technology as an additive tool, not as a replacement tool. So I think the use of tech, what various people are doing in tech is also something that I'm looking forward to. And interaction with various people. I think there are a few other IAS officers as well. There are a few organizations, a lot of organizations working in this field, and looking forward to all those discussions and conversations.
I really hope you enjoy all those conversations.
Thank you.
As we wrap up, my last question to you is, what is your one hope for the future of children?
One hope for the future of the children is as simple as that, for every kid to realize his truest potential.
Mm.
And that potential can be anything, right? There's no correct potential, there's no incorrect potential.
Mm.
It could be any field, it could be academics, it could be sports, it could be arts, it could be anything that you name. But for every kid to have that platform available so that he can or she can achieve their fullest potential and be ready to face a very, very uncertain world. And it is an uncertain world, right from climate change to AI to us moving towards increasingly many different wars in different parts of the world.
Right.
And various forms of leadership coming on the global stage. And so I think we need to prepare them for. One final thing which I often feel, I think we need to prepare our kids to understand what failure is and how to accept failure and then move forward. I think most often than not, we teach them how to, revel in success, but we never tell them how to tackle failure, how to come out of failure. And I think that is a very critical skill that we need to teach them.
That's a very interesting perspective, and I totally resonate with that. Thank you so much
Thank you,
for
Aishwarya.
joining us here today.
Thank you.
And thank you to our audience for tuning in. Keep the dialogue going, stay connected. See you in the next episode of Up Close and Personal Season 2.